ਵੈਲਕਮ ਟੂ ਟੁਡੇਜ਼ ਐਡੀਸ਼ਨ ਆਫ ਮੇਨਸਟ੍ਰੀਮ ਵਿਦ ਹਰਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਤੂਰ। ਆਪ ਸਭ ਨੂੰ ਪਿਆਰ ਭਰੀ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ, ਨਮਸਕਾਰ, ਆਦਾਬ ਐਂਡ ਸ਼ਲੋਮ। Some of the things, like I always say, history repeats itself, and if we don't pay attention, it will go on repeating. But before we go into that, you have my email on the screen. You can always send me an email at justoor@gmail.com and share your thoughts and your questions and whatever you want me to discuss, and I will be more than happy to talk about it and bring those issues as I interpret it and I look at from different perspectives, which is very important, but first things first. In one of my recent mainstream issues, I did discuss that there is no room for anybody to disrespect any other faith, period. No ifs and buts about it. Another Baptist temple in California has been desegregated. Graffiti was found, profanity was used. When I say profanity, I mean unparliamentary language, which you can, where the words are used very often, comparing somebody with a dog or putting up the leash and stuff like that. So those are the things which we need to understand. That I was at one of the get together at the Bob's right here in Long Island this Saturday, and received very nice welcome. Everybody was happy to see me there. Yes, we did not talk about on the stage about the issue, but there were people who came to meet me, and I can understand their frustration with what happened there. And from that perspective, we also can understand, the black community back in California. And at the same time, there was an instance which happened actually in California with this assembly woman, Mrs. Baines. That was also I discussed here. So what I'm trying to say here is there's nothing wrong in having dialogue. There is nothing wrong having your opinion. There is nothing wrong, talking about the issues which are very near and dear to you. But at the same time, the people should also look at how to interact with the other communities. Doesn't matter how much you differ with them. For example, we are still in the month of September, 9/11. We just finished up, today is October 1st. September 18th, a Sikh driver got attacked in Manhattan on 33rd Street and 11th Avenue. He was right there, just went to pick up a passenger. Nothing more, nothing less. But he got punched right on the face and he was told to go back to his country. And now, I'm sorry to say, there are people who are not going to like it, but there is a candidate, a presidential candidate, and his vice president. They are actually picking up the minorities as a soft target and throwing up everything on them, whichever will stick. So the question is, are they discussing the issues? For example, what's going on in the world, what is going on in America, how AI will affect everything, all those issues which are important. The immigrant, the situation at the southern border, which we all know Trump called the senators to kill the bill which was there, which senators themselves, the extreme so-called right senators, they came up with that bill. And he himself felt ashamed about it. that his own party ditched him after he got an agreement. So those issues need to be discussed, not throwing the mud and throwing the minorities under the bus. And it is not just happening here, it is happening throughout. It is happening in Europe, where the people are coming in, because of the reasons back home. I'm not saying that there are not people who are out there just because of financial gains. Yes, there are, but at the same time, we should not be ignoring the fact that there are other people who, because of the political persecution at home, they are out there. And yes, Prime Minister Modi was here and he did not meet President Donald Trump. So these are the issues which I'm going to touch on a little bit today. But first, we should know that Helene hurricane has done such a destruction. There are a few hundred people who are already dead. There are still people missing. We don't know. And in North Carolina, almost every county of the state has been affected one way or the other. Same thing in parts of Georgia and Florida. But the hard part is some of the areas still are not reachable. Why? Because everything got either washed out, no roads, nothing. And we're looking at this situation. And interesting thing is that President Joe Biden spoke to the governor of Georgia, and both of them, President Joe Biden as well as the governor of Georgia, they talked about it, that we had a long conversation about how FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, can help the state to, for the infrastructure which got damaged and everything, and how to provide the assistance. While a Republican governor and a Democrat president, they are talking about, they had a conversation. We have our own former President Donald Trump, who does not stop lying, and I'm sorry to say it, day in, day out, talking about, that they are not doing anything, this government is not doing anything, And this is the president, the former president, who actually altered on the map a way of the hurricane instead of the way it was going to hit the United States. And guess what? The people were actually the agency which predicts the hurricane. Even they followed in line with the president at that time, the President Trump, and they altered that route. They did not contest that, Mr. President, no, it's a wrong information. And those people who were in the path of the hurricane, they ended up paying dearly. And those people where the president predicted the hurricane will hit, they even did not see a drop of the rain. So when we are going into this election, when we are walking into this election, the issues which are out there in front of us, we need to look at it, because United States election is not the election just for the next president. The election is for who will actually look into the long term, not their personal interest, but long term, not for the United States, but for the rest of the world as an elder brother, and then look at it, and based on that, then, try to do something which indirectly and directly affects the United States. Here we have a person who is running as a president who is saying that he will put up 100%, 200% tariffs, and he will give the tax break. Who affects the tariffs? If I buy this phone today for, let us say, $500, you put up 100% tariff on it, it will be $1,000 for me. The person who put up the tariff, it doesn't matter to him, because for him, it's going to be the company, whichever company he owns, it will be written off from the company, and the company got the tax break as well as income reduction for purchasing something. But in the meantime, you and I paid another $500 extra. I'm using it as an example. To do what? And nobody is talking about it, because those are the policies which need to be looked at. What is being proposed. Last time when this thing happened, when he was the president, he put up the tariffs on a lot of things from China and Canada, on a lot of wood which comes to United States for home manufacturing and for other things from Canada. He put up 30% tariffs. You get up in the morning, last night you were planning that, okay, I'm going to buy this plywood for or other parts of the wood for about, let us say, $100, and next day you get up, you go to the shop to buy it. Instead of $100, it's $130 a piece. So who actually is losing in this battle? And when we look at that from that perspective, we need to be very careful that how these things are linked. Fact check, tonight is the debate for vice presidents. Honestly, I didn't watch the last debate because I just cannot, that's me, a person who lies, I just can't stand the person. So I decided not to even watch it. So tonight I will try to watch it, even though I know J.D. Vance is another product of Donald Trump, who actually happens to just, gaslight whatever that Trump says, and facts are not checked. And I have been talking about this thing that how social media controls the minds of the people, how the social media is keeping you in a bubble. And when you go out and talk to the people, doesn't matter which aisle of the, side they are sitting, either Republican or Democrat, especially the extreme left or right, they have their very narrow bubble, and they look into that bubble, and they are the blind supporters of everything. And latest is that, he is going to pick up everybody, and he is going to ban the people from South Africa, from African countries and Asian countries, because he is practically, literally, he is saying America, the white population is being wiped out from United States. And I can understand that, those people, those Caucasians and white Christian majority who had been ruling here for more than 200 years, they see that their grip on the power and everything is loosening. So they are afraid. It's like, us from Punjab or Gujarat or other states where there is a mass migration to United States. The other people from other poor states of India, they come in to fill in the gaps. And we are not happy about that, even though we are living here. So, just try to connect that how it affects. Right now, there is an election going on in Punjab, Panchayat election. You go to any program, that's what they are talking about. They are not talking about the American politics. That is very important, and that is what we are going to talk about, that how the politics, international politics, they affect the elections which take place right here in the United States, and it is less than 5 weeks away, 5 weeks away from today. Like I was talking about that, we are going to talk about what's happening internationally, and based on that, how it affects the election in the United States. On the one hand, we have Joe Biden, and there are things where I myself feel frustrated that there are few steps he could have taken, but then again, he knows more people diplomatically than anybody else. and I'm assuming that he is trying to do his best. But at the same time, let's not forget that on the other side, with the flip of the coin, there are countries who do not want another Democrat in the White House. They want Trump. Why? Because they know that he can be manipulated. You just, praise him, and all of a sudden, the balloon goes so big that you can, whatever you ask, you get it. But looking at it, results, long-term results, short-term results in international relationship, I don't see much. That actually reminds me that if a lot of people, they do not know, or they even don't remember that there was an ambassador to Ukraine when Donald Trump was the president, and he wanted to stick something to Joe Biden through Hunter, and his son through Burisma. And President Trump, the then President Trump, was trying his best to get some of the things from the government of the time, including at that time President Zelensky, the current president of Ukraine. He had gotten recently elected. They wanted him to issue some statements which will actually, over here they will use it to stick to Joe Biden so that, they can try to win the election. Okay. Now the question comes in, the President Zelensky refused to toe the line. Then there were people with Rudy Giuliani, the former mayor of New York City. By the way, that's another interesting thing. I'm going to throw it in here, that Rudy Giuliani's daughter actually yesterday endorsed Kamala Harris for the president. Rudy Giuliani's daughter, and her family, including her, are upset about that. Her dad and the husband of their moms, is into that Trump loop. So they tried to do everything. It was not happening. And then, they wanted actually to get a visa to somebody who was actually spreading around the lies, and he was trying to be on the good side of the then president and his cahoots, and he tried to get the visa. The visa was refused by the consulate based on certain security reasons, and because the person at that time, the lady of the time who was ambassador, she was aware of the situation and she refused it. President Trump actually personally wanted that visa to be granted, and still it got refused. President Trump spoke to Secretary of State Pompeo, and Pompeo told the then President Donald Trump that that is not going to happen. Just look at it, that how low somebody can go. And here we are talking about a person who tells you and everybody else, I'm a successful businessman, I can make the deals, I can do everything. What kind of deals you're talking about? I don't know. So what is happening now internationally? Let us take one at a time. Israel and Gaza. In Michigan, there is a substantial population of the Muslims who are not happy with the current administration's policies regarding Israel and Gaza. So they are either ditching the Democratic Party for Republicans, or they are planning to stay home. Which means what? Which means there is a probability of Democratic candidate Kamala Harris not winning Michigan, so losing electoral votes. One instance, okay? The other one, Israel attacked Lebanon, and right now Iran attacked Israel and doing it. Israel killing somebody who went to attend the oath ceremony of the Iranian president. Nobody is talking about that. Why? Because the government and the media, how they want the perspective. There are a lot of people who also tell me, I don't stick to one thing or I go left to right. But for me, the question is, within that certain time, I want to throw these things at you so that you can literally either Google it or look into it and then make yourself your decision. I'm not telling you to decide. I'm not going to decide for you, and I'm not going to tell you what to do. Yes, I can definitely tell you about my thinking, but these are other things which I do why I'm talking about. Now, with Iran, there was a deal during Obama, which Iran and the United States and other 5 countries, they signed it. It is known as 5+1. President Trump pulled out. He decided to pull it out. And after he pulled it out, that Iranian, they decided to go ahead with their nuclear research and their dream of having a nuclear bomb, because they just want a deterrent like everybody else. Israel has a nuclear bomb, but nobody talks about it because publicly they have never admitted and they have never denied. So Iran, being afraid, you can say, or to protect their own integrity, they are using their own means. Yeah, they are doing the proxy war like every other country. The United States did the proxy war in Afghanistan by creating mujahideens, and that left Pakistan and Afghanistan, both those countries, in the current situation which they are, and we know that. Iraq invaded. What happened in Iraq, we know that. So what I'm trying to say here is those international politics, they actually affect how the people vote. Never forget, Jimmy Carter actually lost his election because even though a deal was reached with Iran to release the hostages, but in the back room, Republicans actually sort of bought a Democrat, a very high-ranking, very respected Democrat, to work on their behalf, on Republicans' behalf, with promise of some post which was never given to him, to not to let the deal get declared before the election, before the Ronald Reagan takes the oath. 1982, that's when Ronald Reagan, 1980, sorry, January 20th, 1980, Ronald Reagan took the oath, and as soon as he took the oath, it was declared that, US and Iran, they had reached into an agreement, the hostages will be released, they will be home. Now, same scenario is being played in Israel right now. Netanyahu, known as Bibi, also playing that card. He knows that there is only so much Joe Biden can push him, and he is waiting for Trump to come into power, because Joe Biden and Bibi, both of them, there are issues where they don't get along. One of the issue, of course, is two-state solution. Bibi doesn't want anything to do with it, even though international community agrees with it, but Bibi is totally against it, doesn't want it at all. So he's playing it. Now, what is happening? Because of that, Bibi is playing that card. So Michigan is into the play, and there could be some other places also where there is a substantial Muslim population. I know here in New York also there is a substantial number of population which are Muslims, and they actually literally are not going to vote for Joe Biden. because they look at it that Joe Biden is not doing enough for Gaza. But they are not looking at it. There is only so much he can do to do it, because Bibi refuses. And Bibi in the United Nations, when he came here, he always lies. He lied before, and he lied this time also about what is happening in what is happening right in Israel and Gaza and Lebanon. He does not care about those hostages, even though he's saying that he has the promise and he will bring everybody home. He brought a couple of people who could have been alive today, but they came home dead. Why? Because Bibi understands that if Democrat Harris wins, then he will have less cards to play with, and that is how American elections get into play. We're walking into the final segment of it. There are few things, about US election again. We need to look at thoroughly. We need to understand the consequences. Like they say, elections have consequences. So definitely elections do have consequences, and we need to look at those consequences. If we don't, then we are actually letting our kids pay for that. I'm reading you a quote from Plato. One of the penalties for refusing to participate in politics is that you end up being governed by your inferiors. Let me read it again. One of the penalties for refusing to participate in politics is that you end up being governed by your inferiors. So this is such an honest statement and a fact if you really look at it. Because some people, they are like, my vote is not going to make a difference. No, it does. It definitely does. I have discussed before, let us talk about it statistically, that how minority actually rules majority. Okay? Overall percentage of the people who participate in the United States in voting, maybe 65% during presidential election, maybe 70% top. Okay? Now, it means what? That the 30% never came out to vote out of 70%. So one candidate gets 36%, the other candidates get 34%. There is only 2% margin, maybe even less than that. One got 35.2, the other one got 34.8, but the guy with the 35.2 out of those 70% wins the election. Which means what? Which means basically, when you look at that from 100% point of view, less than 30% people got people elected to govern the remainder of the 70% of the population. These just simple calculations. That's why, when the negative ads are run, what's the purpose of negative ad? There are two purposes. One, to discourage some of the people who are sitting on the fence, that they will feel disgusted about it and they will not go out to vote. Number two, just to push the lies so much that the voter who goes out, he or she will decide not to vote for a person against whom there is so much negative ad. Fact checks, who does it anymore? Because smartphones have actually restricted our mental ability to challenge what used to be there. When you used to read the newspaper, I still remember, you have a newspaper, the person next to you will borrow, okay, can I have one section please? And that will start the conversation. You will have the conversation. Doesn't matter whether that person is from Democrat or Republican Party, or the person who's reading that newspaper, Republican or Democrat, but a conversation will start. That's not there anymore. You know, that's why a lot of these issues which are happening these days, nationally and internationally, they are not talked about. Why? Because exactly the communication is not there. And these people actually, because of lack of communication, they will not actually even pay attention, much of the attention to the issue which need to be paid to. And yeah, and then here you go. President got elected for next 4 years. He or she can do whatever they want to do, or at least there are still some checks and balances which somehow are not going to be there. Let's be honest, if President Donald Trump gets elected, because he has already committed that he is not going to send anybody to Senate to confirm as one of their secretary who actually will run everything. He will just appoint them at his whim, and he will fire them at his whim. And also, they are already talking about how to get rid of, create another element into the government, which is so far, correct me if I'm wrong, the federal government, irrespective of your party affiliation, they will do their job right. Like I mentioned, Pompeo refused to Donald Trump to ask the ambassador to Ukraine to issue visa to a particular person. Now, President Trump wants that he can hire and fire any person whosoever he wants to keep. And some of his people are saying that he should have a free hand to implement the policies which the current president wants. Okay, let's see it now. Okay, Donald Trump comes in and he brings in those people, and they will start penalizing the Democrats. Democratic president comes in and he will start penalizing Republicans. Guess what? We already have this divide in the country because of one person, and thanks to the Supreme Court who actually gave him a blank check that he has the power to, the president is beyond persecution, beyond the law, except in certain instances. And now there is already a case in the government talking about those certain circumstances where the president is out of bound. So by the time the law takes place, it's about time for another election. And guess what? Same thing. So long-term perspective of this country is at stake. Whatever way you want to vote, I'm not going to ask you which way to vote. But you know my opinion on this thing, because the way I put up the things, the way I think about it, make sure that when you do that, do you really want that kind of country leaving behind for your kids and for your grandkids, where everything is decided at the whims of the one person? He gets up in the morning and he decides what to do, and especially that person has the fingers on the nuclear button which he can use. We are already so close to expansion of these fights into multi-countries fight. When Russia and Ukraine started, Russia invaded Ukraine, even though Russia had given the guarantee of the border. Now other countries, NATO countries, based on their views and their perception that today it's Ukraine, tomorrow it will be us, so they are supporting Ukraine whatever they can, and America is behind Ukraine. Trump has already said that he will not, and he definitely will not, because President Zelensky refused to accept when President Trump wanted him to, do certain things and do his bidding. So, knowing President Trump, why would he want Zelensky to be in power? Of course not. And that is something, which we need to look at very seriously. These are the things which need to be looked at. That's why when I started the show, I did mention that how international politics could play into American elections. And this is how it is playing. I did mention about Prime Minister Modi visiting here in 2019. At that time, Prime Minister Modi endorsed the then President Donald Trump for the election. And this time when he came, and he even didn't go to meet him, even though President Trump did make a statement that he's going to meet the sitting Prime Minister Modi. And yeah, there was a quad meeting, and how he got treatment over there, it is because of that Indian government tried to kill a US citizen. Question is not whether that US citizen is what he's saying or what he's doing is right or wrong. That's not the question. The question is something which Russia never thought and did, India tried to do it. Thanks to these advisors who think that they are the hawks and they can get away with it, they actually have put India into a very precarious situation, and this is something which is they have put around their own prime minister's neck, which I don't think will be easy to get out. So, elections are around the corner, and as you know, I'm also a candidate for New York State Assembly. So, I may skip 1 or 2 shows, I don't know yet, or I may try to do it via Zoom, or whichever way. I will do my best to stay in touch with you. But again, stay in touch, send me an email. I will be more than happy to send you the email, get back to you. And yes, do not forget, November 5th is the voting day. There are early votings in a lot of states having different rules. Make sure that you go out and vote, and especially us, minority South Asians, if we go out and vote in majority like 80%, we do only 20-25%. If we go out and vote 80%, you will see the difference, how the services get delivered to you at your doorsteps by the government of this country and the state and the county where you live. And with that note, till next time, good night and good luck.